2 steps forward, 1 step back. That is essentially the pattern no matter what else you're doing. As you can see, you can flux core with one of these if you have to, but the problem is flux core creates a lot of slag and a lot of boogers around here. So, hey guys, so a little while ago I was talking with somebody on the video I did about the Titanium Unlimited 200. It's a multi-process welding machine from Harbor Freight, and they were just asking me a couple of questions about beginning with flux core and getting started on the 110 and everything. Just a couple of details and stuff. So made me realize I never actually did like a how-to beginner video on flux core welding. I did one for stick welding, but never flux core. So I thought today I would just go over a couple of tips, tricks, and just my advice on flux core welding for beginners. Maybe this could be a pretty good companion video if you did just purchase this machine and you don't have the shielding gas bottle and all the other stuff to go with it. So yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. So this machine does have 2 settings. It's got a 240 volt and a 120 volt. Now I have a 240 plug, but not everybody does. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch that to the 120 setting for the entirety of this video. And the other thing you need to do is you need to take the 240 plug coming off of the machine and plug in this little adapter that comes with it that converts it to 110. You can't just flick the switch while it's still plugged into 240. So you gotta put the adapter on first. All right, so coming into the cover, this is where I got mixed up when I was first starting out, and I don't use the normal welding terms anymore because they confuse me a little bit. For flux core, you want to run DC electrode negative. Now this essentially is your electrode. What I mean by that is the part that attaches to the gun and where the wire feeds out, that's your electrode. So if it says electrode negative, that means you want this to be attached to the negative side. Now on this particular machine, you can see there's a little wire bolted on top of there. That runs all the way out to this thing. That's connected to what's called your drive roller. And I want that to go into the negative lug here, as you can see. Now, this is a special machine. It's multi-process, so they kind of made it nifty, but every machine's a little different. For example, on this Hobart machine, all that's done internally on these 2 lugs. They're still labeled, but this one just attaches to the drive roller, and you can see the ground on the other end just has a little lug mount, and that just passes through a little hole right here. So either way, however it goes, you want to make sure that the thing attached to your drive roll is connected to the negative lug. However you access that, this is all stored away, but you get my point. And then in this case, I have my ground lug also connects externally to the front, but it's not going to negative. My ground is going to be on the positive side. Now, there's a ton of different times and reasons why you switch that up, especially with stick welding, but for the most part, flux core, you're only ever going to run DC electrode negative. It's going to make your life a lot easier, and it's just going to make welding simpler. All right, I'm not going to go over the bigger spools, 11-pound spools, I think, but the regular spools, you just pop it on there, and you got this little wing nut. You want to be careful of the tension. You don't want too much tension on here for flux core. You want it really just tight enough to stay on there. So that should be fine. But anyways, once that's done, you can go ahead and pop it out of the hole that it comes in, or if it's a brand new spool, it'll probably have like a little tape section or something. Cut the yucky part so you're left with a nice straight piece. Now, I prefer, and I find it way easier, to have the wire feeding underneath, if that makes sense. The wire is rolling this way and it's going to feed underneath rather than rolling this way and feeding from the top, because you're going to create kind of like a unnecessary tension basically, and you're really going to feel a difference on the wire feed because the way the wire feeds affects the weld, right? So you're going to feel a difference. I definitely think it's the best to have it coming out from underneath as close to in line with this as possible. If you're running an 11-pound spool, there'll be a slight dip, but as you can see, this is offset slightly higher than that, so it's intended to go from underneath. Then you just want to feed that through. So right here is the drive roller. I like to have the abrasive side. You know, it's got a bunch of ridges on it, and that's what I usually rest the wire on, but there is multiple little channels on this one. There's even a second roller for the 030 wire, but I'll get into that in just a second. And then what I do is I just go in a little bit by hand. I'm gonna go ahead and lock that up, and we are done inside of here. Now in my case, I switch between them, so I just have the shielding gas bottle always hooked up, but if you're gonna do this, make sure the shielding gas bottle is shut completely. Turn the machine on, and run the wire speed all the way up. And again, making sure this switch is on the wire feed setting, because this is TIG, that's stick, the very bottom setting is wire feed. So make sure that's right, otherwise I'm gonna work. Let the wire speed up and keeping an eye on it over here to make sure I don't get any kinks, I'm going to go ahead and run the wire all the way out. That way I don't have to feed it by hand, it just does it on its own. And you'll see us jumping a little bit. That means I probably have a little bit too much tension, or the reel is not perfectly smooth. That's going to be okay. Now it's best when you're doing this to take the tip off. That way you don't have any risk of binding when the wire gets in there, because it's a much bigger opening without that tip on there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and hold it down, again keeping an eye on that to make sure it doesn't kink. And then once I see the wire, oops, you can feel it, then I'll go ahead and let go. So like many wire feed machines, you have two options for tips you can run. You have this cone-shaped nozzle, which is for flux core, and then you have this like big beefy one that encompasses the whole thing, that's for MIG. Now, you can flux core with one of these if you have to, but the problem is flux core creates a lot of slag and a lot of boogers around here. So this is going to be getting gummed up, you're going to be shorting it out, welding tips, and that's not really fun. You'll notice what the flux core tip does is it puts that tip way out and away. So that way, all the boogers, maybe you'll get some on the tip, but you're going to be holding that away anyway. It's much easier to just brush the tip off with your finger than constantly have to take this off and clean it to maintain. So flux core tips definitely recommended. You can honestly even run no tip. I mean, this thing's barely there anymore, but it is nice to be able to protect all the threads and everything else underneath here. So if you can get them, I definitely recommend running them. They're usually available at Harbor Freight as replacements too. Now, for my recommendation on consumables, that's upside down, but I recommend using 035 wire, and the reason is because it's slightly thicker, which when you're welding heavier metal is going to make a big difference. You're going to be able to do single pass a lot easier, but it's also, the benefits from running 030 on thinner metal aren't really that substantial, at least in my opinion, not substantial enough to have a whole another set of tips and a whole another set of wire. So you can use 035 tips for 030 wire, but it's going to be loose and you're going to be less accurate. So it's best to use this tip for the right wire. I just prefer 035. You can run whatever you want. 030 works. You just have to have your wire speed up a little bit. It might take a little longer and some of the thicker stuff, but my recommendation is 035. Get into that wire size. Just, it'll make your life a little easier. So the ground that came with this machine wasn't terrific, so I just got a vice grip from Harbor Freight, drilled a hole in it, and bolted that to it. Don't be surprised if the ground breaks, but you're not out the whole thing. You literally just need to attach this cable to anything that has some sort of a clipper. You can take an old pair of jumper cables or whatever you want. Heck, as long as you have these two lugs, if you wanted to, you could just get a set of jumper cables and use those as welding leads. I've actually done that in a video. Can't do wire feed though, and that's what we're talking about today. Welding, remember to change your settings back down because we just cranked that all the way up. I'm actually just going to drop it to 0, and since we're on 110, I think I'll go to 16 volts for what I'm about to weld, and then probably 180 on the wire just for a starting point. Let's go 165. The readout's nice. I don't like how wandery the knobs are though. Alright, so we've got scrap pieces of tube I want to weld together and kind of go over some tips while I do that. So welding technique is similar to just about any other kind of weld you're going to do. Real quick, I'll just go over that. So pretend this is like wire coming out of here on the screwdriver. I'm going to be, if it was MIG, I would be pushing because there's no slag. But flux core leaves slag, just like stick. It's not nearly as thick as stick welding. So in this case, what I'm going to be doing is dragging away, and then on this particular joint, I'll be doing kind of a zigzag motion. Alright, so real quick, I wanted to go over what exactly I'm doing when I'm welding. Now, this is going to be evident in the video, but I'd like to just go over it slow, just like I did with the stick welding video, because I feel like that helps. It helped me when my teacher did it, so now I'm going to do it for you. This is the seam that you're going to be welding, this, whatever it's going to be, whether it's a lap joint, a butt joint, anything. Now, with flux core, it's in the name, it's got flux in it, which means it leaves behind slag. Now, any process that leaves behind slag, I find it makes your life a lot easier to drag away from the arc, rather than pushing into it. Now, if you're coming from stick welding, that's going to be intuitive, second nature. If you're coming from MIG welding, that might take a little bit of getting used to. At least in my experience, the proper way to MIG weld is to push into it. I found a lot more success that way. So flux core, like I said, you're going to be first of all dragging away from the arc. You don't need to strike the arc because it's a wire feeder, but once the arc strikes, what I like to do is sort of large ovals. Now, the basic motion for welding is a whip and pause, where you go and then backtrack a little bit and then make up more ground, then you just backtrack. So it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That is essentially the pattern no matter what else you're doing. As you can see, this arc is taking 2 steps forward, and then that loop is going about 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I got my 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But the difference is I'm tying in more material on either side with that loop. Now this applies to whether or not you're going to be doing sort of a sawtooth motion, 2 steps forward, 1 step laterally maybe, or 1 step forward, 1 step lateral. But either way, you're gaining ground and then going back a little bit. Now, the reason behind that, the method behind the madness is, with flux core especially, it likes to burn through. It does a really good job of penetrating. So you want to have the heat enough to melt into the metal and fuse it, but you don't want too much that it breaks through and collapses your puddle and burns through, like a thin metal or exhaust, things like that. I will be welding thin metal in this video, actually, just to kind of demonstrate how well this works with thin metal. But the idea here is that you're applying enough heat and then getting that heat away long enough for that to cool, and then you're going back and filling the spot right behind it. And then you're getting the heat away long enough for that new spot to cool down, and then you're going to go and fill in the gap. And now that's hot, so you got to get that heat away, and then you're going to keep going in, filling in that gap, get the heat away, going back in, filling in the gap. That's essentially all welding is as far as what your hand's doing. You're applying a bunch of heat to something. Now in stick welding, the heat source and the material is the same thing. In this case, the heat source is the gun, and the material is the wire feeding out. With TIG, your heat source is usually a separate torch, and your material you're feeding with your hand. Same thing with brazing and soldering. So that's essentially most of what welding is, at least with the arc welding side. And this is some thicker metal, and it is a little rusty, but one of the benefits of flux core is that it's a lot more forgiving on unclean metal. I honestly usually just brush it off real good. If there's a bunch of oil and stuff, sometimes I'll clean it because that can contaminate it and make porosity, but rust and paint usually doesn't care. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and tack this thing up and get welding. Back. Now, if you're coming from MIG welding, this gun might be a little, this like nozzle and everything might be a little funky to work with. What I like to do, take 2 fingers and pinch it there. And you can really see clearly how close this thing gets. I'm going to be holding it out a little further than MIG, but not by much. So keep that in mind. Put out this tip when it doesn't have that cone coming over to protect it. Anyways, with those all welded up, I'm going to go ahead and do one here. Like I said, what I'm going to be doing is, as I'm feeding the wire, I'm going to be doing that kind of a motion as I back away. And I'm dragging, not pushing, because you can see all this slag is leaving while I weld. So, good shot. Now for welds like this, often I just do a whip and pause as I'm dragging away, and I'll just favor this tube here because there's an opening on this tube. So I'm going to kind of point it into the corner of this tube, that way I don't have a bunch of shit falling in there. And that's going to make it a little easier. So. You gotta trust it to an extent, because it does look like the puddle's gonna collapse, but what's happening is that the flux burning off as it's laying it on there. It's another thing to note visually is sometimes you'll see the flux behind your puddle, and it'll kind of make you think your puddle's gonna collapse. It's not. Just bear in mind, you might have to lower the settings, maybe your settings aren't too high, but in this case it seems like I selected the perfect settings. I will because tube a lot, so I kind of have an idea, but anyways. Another thing to note with this machine is there is kind of a weird delay with the trigger. I don't like it. Maybe some people do, but I don't know why it does it. It's just something to deal with. But it's not too big of a deal if you know what you do. Not the most beautiful welds in the world, but not half bad. I mean, yeah, they're pretty bad, but whatever. Alright, so now I'm going to try out some much thinner stuff. Keep a little more organized. And this here, as you can see, I'm cutting it with shears. This is 20 gauge. So right here I have 2 pieces of 20 gauge. I'm bringing my settings down quite a bit because that's definitely a little high, but heck, I might even go all the way down to 13 volts, and I'm going to do 100 on the wire speed. So I'm pretty close to the minimal settings on that machine, but we'll definitely need it because, like I've said, flux core and thin metal don't really get along very well. Let's see here. Got the settings, like I said, real low. And same thing, the flux core, you always want to drag away from your weld instead of pushing into it, because you do have that slag to deal with. But I'm going to first pack these together. Seems like this way will work well. It wasn't perfect. I missed a little spot right there. I went a little too quick at the beginning, but once I got the hang of it, it did okay. I'm going to fill that up quick. Got a burn through there, as you can see, but 2 welds on 20 gauge on flux core. That's not too bad. I only had one little burn through there. I mean, they're not the most beautiful welds in the world, but another thing about flux core is it really dirties up your helmet, you know what I'm saying? Make sure you keep that thing clean while you're welding so you can actually see what you're doing. The best and really the only way to get good at welding of any kind is to just practice. Now, I showed you some hopefully useful tips, tricks, and techniques like hand movements and things, but the real way to get good at welding is to practice, whether it's MIG, TIG, stick, spool gun, which I have very little practice in, but I guess I have little practice in TIG as well. So, point being, practice makes perfect, or at the very least it makes permanent. So if you practice good techniques, you should get really, really good at welding. And the only way to do it is just hours under the torch. So with that in mind, I hope this video helped. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. I'm getting real close to that 1,000 subscriber mark here. And if you have been supporting the channel for a while now, I really appreciate you. Thank you. And other than that, I guess have a wonderful rest of your day, guys. God bless.